think I should assume that people know what a Bennackism is, right?
A Bennackism?
Bennackism.
You call them Bennackisms?
That's what we call them here at Hearst, is a Bennackism.
Frank has been known for years for his signature phrases, which a lot of us internally have called Bennackisms.
He's filled with these Bennackisms.
Salt of the earth, pieces of wisdom for all of us.
And he zings right into the truth.
At Lincoln Center, we have people interpreting Bennackisms.
The art of communications expresses itself in many forms.
I'm honored to say that Frank Bennack and I have been friends for a long time. One of the many things I admire about him is he's never gotten very far from his roots. If you're going to understand Frank Bennack, you have to understand how Texan he is. The worst I've ever heard him say about somebody was, "That man's all hat and no cattle," which in Texas language means he's a phony.
Frank's first introduction to television goes all the way back to his time as a young man in San Antonio when he was the host of a local dance program. He literally was the Dick Clark of San Antonio, Texas.
What sets Frank apart, I think, from many CEOs is his passion for media, for information, for how it changes over time.
One of my favorite Frank Bennack signature phrases is, "Broadcasting business is a bit like Wagner. It's better than it sounds."
I remember being at a meeting 20 years ago when Frank first brought up the notion that he was going to undertake the chairmanship of then the Museum of Television Radio, now the Paley Center.
Well, you know, Frank really had big shoes to fill when he came into that job after Bill Paley. But it was apparent right away that he was not only a great leader, but he was a terrific listener.
He asked some probing questions about why this name, why this change, and then he threw his 100% support behind not only going for it, but convincing all of his colleagues on the board, which Frank can do so very well.
I think the other thing that Frank is he's charming. He's warm, he gives you a hug. That's a big thing for a leader.
We all do what we can.
One of the ones that I love a lot is you can have big problems and you can have bad problems, but just don't have big bad problems. We have been pretty effective at avoiding those following Frank's sage advice.
Frank's entire career at Hearst has been about leadership.
Frank's leadership was indispensable to the transformation of Lincoln Center for the 21st century.
You hear it said so often that a great leader is one who leads by example.
What makes Frank great as a CEO is he's always there. His loyalty, his friendship.
He will stand beside you. He's got your back.
Frank is a guy who's always on the clock at the office, and I remember him saying one day, it's okay to get your hair cut on company time because after all it grows on company time.
My favorite is, "I was born at night, but not last night."
Frank can run intellectually with anybody.
When you look at how Frank makes deals, he's very strategic. He makes them over a weekend, he makes them over coffee.
What I love about him is he's very fair. For the women that were on the board, I always felt heard.
He's a visionary. Frank can see not just to the far horizon. Frank Bennack sees beyond the far horizon.
The next 10 years will be exciting and productive for all of us.
One of my proudest memories at Hearst is the decision that was made under Frank's leadership to proceed on the construction of the Hearst Tower. Not many people know that that meeting was scheduled for September 12th, 2001. Obviously that meeting didn't occur. 30 days later, in October of 2001, the board convened, the decision was made, and that happened because of Frank's leadership at the end of the table.
Frank's a special CEO. They don't come that way anymore.
He not only wears the hat, but he has the cattle, and he delivers.